Leaves like sculptures moving across the water, leaving behind them traces of silence, trembling, falling, touching like skin, striking and striking, twinkling behind the shadow of doubt, floating. Floating, 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 walking, walking. I'm listening to a deeper way. Suddenly, all my ancestors are behind me. Be still, they say. Watch and listen. You are the result of the love of thousands. Watching, watching. And being watched, the gaze, the gaze, the gaze, the gaze, forgetting, fading, forming the miracle, understanding, the laughing, supposedly, trust will take trust, finding the blind, touching like skin, like striking, twinkling, behind the shadow of doubt, floating, trembling, walking. I'm listening to a deeper way, trembling. Suddenly all my ancestors are behind me. Be still, they say. Watch and listen, trembling. You are the result of the love of thousands. Trembling. Touching like skin, like striking, twinkling, behind the shadow of doubt, floating,
Watching and being watched, the gaze into the night, forgetting what we saw, finding, forming the miracle, understanding the laughter of being, supposedly trust will take us, finding the belief in love.